I'm moving from the churning rapids of Charles Bukowski to the more placid waters of Lake Wobegon. So this is quite a transition. If a writer of my generation were going to be jealous of another, it would be Garrison Keillor. He was not only extremely popular, he was also an excellent wordsmith. I did not listen to his long-running weekly radio show, but I knew many who did. They would tune in on a Sunday evening as loyal and rapt as churchgoers. And though Keillor referred to his work there as monologues, there was something of a sermon in them. Using that old-school radio, NPR, as a pulpit, he was more of a minister with a flock than an entertainer and an audience. Keillor wrote about a lake, but he was as prolific as the ocean, spawning many works over his long career, the latest of which is called the Garrison Keillor Reader. Obviously a vanity, but Keillor goes his way so genially that he can be easily forgiven. He recreates a scene around a great bonfire in the freezing cold of winter, standing there drinking whiskey with a crowd of rowdy men, and among them I am sure Keillor would be voted Mr. Congeniality, though he has been married 3 times, which suggests possibly otherwise. The stories he includes in the volume are fecund, teeming with telling details. They are highly elevated silliness, profoundly preposterous inventions. Every creature in them, human or animal, is special in its own way, and has been invested with an odd mission, and is determined to fulfill it, come what may. High jinks and low jinks ensue. No one likes a humorist, a comic, more than I do, but as with anything, you can OD, have too much of a good thing. Keillor says exactly that about Mark Twain in a review of his writings published posthumously. When someone plays everything for a laugh, they can, at length, become cloying, they can overreach. A reader gets positively saturated. A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court was for me an overreach and a half. Keillor says the same thing about the final third of Huck Finn, and I heartily agree. And if the great Twain can be guilty of this, then anyone can. I recently read a book by Tom Wolfe. An entire section of it was taken up with his musings about the New Yorker magazine. Keillor also has a piece on that subject in his book, and it was interesting to compare the two. Keillor reveres the magazine. He begins his book with a photocopy of a letter from an editor there, an acceptance letter full of praise, which he celebrates as the beginning of his writing career. His take on the magazine, which he expanded into a book, is, not surprisingly, affectionate. It is written in a way that reminded me of James Thurber taking the meek and mild William Shawn into a bodacious update on Walter Mitty's alter ego. In the piece, the magazine is owned by the mob. Keillor shoots pool and drinks bourbon with Shawn, goes fishing and drinks bourbon with Shawn, and along the way Shawn offers cryptic, hard-boiled advice and commentary on writing. Keillor is sent to Alaska to experience life in the raw so he can write a raw piece about it for the magazine. He meets a gal named Alana and spends 2 wild weeks in bed with her. She hopes that will benefit him in a literary way. He returns to New York where he learns that Shawn has been fired. The staff and contributors to the magazine designate him to shoot the mob boss, who is holed up in the Algonquin Hotel, and then Shawn won't be fired anymore. Rather inadvertently, he does shoot and kill the mob boss, who is whisked away by the hotel staff, and thereby Keillor, having murdered a publisher, saves the day and preserves the beloved institution that is the New Yorker. Wolfe wrote a piece so long it had to be published in 2 parts. It was a thorough evisceration of the fussy, reticent editor, William Shawn, obsessing over commas and semicolons, and his magazine, which Wolfe declared was moribund, and had been for over 20 years. Wolfe goes on and on about it, in his Baroque style, bringing in mummy dolls and troops of famous authors, all to show that the legendary New Yorker was dead. Shawn knew grammar, but not good writing. That was being published and enjoyed elsewhere, while the New Yorker staggered on, a literary zombie, ignorant of its own fate. There was a sense of gleeful cruelty in Wolfe's writing, the way a young boy with a BB gun would get excited about killing a squirrel. It is a far cry from Keillor's jocular civility.